You wake up. You are in the Middle Ages. You are a knight. But which one? A temple knight or a court knight? You are surrounded by stone walls. If your hands are joined in prayer, you are a temple knight. But if you are holding the hilt of your sword in the light coming through the velvet curtains, you are a court knight. You serve either God or the king, either a silent oath or a grand salute, either a Templar knight or a court knight. If you are a Templar, you were probably born in the south of France. You are the second or third son of a noble family. The eldest son inherited the land. Your family secured this world. You were given the order. Your family secured the other world. If you are a courtier, you grew up in the courtyard of a castle. Your father's kingdom was prosperous. Nobility comes to you from your family. If you are a Templar, you were taken to the monastery at the age of 7. You prayed. You were silent and raised that way. Not with love, but with patience. Not with laughter, but with worship. Not by asking questions, but by obeying. A white armor, a red cross, a gray heart. That was you, knight. By the way, join in and I've enabled the super chat feature. If you want to support me, I'll be waiting. If you were a courtier, they taught you to dance as well as wield a sword. You took lessons, courtly manners. You knew whom to bow before and whom not to turn your back on. So yours was both a matter of war and diplomacy. You grew up, you became a young man. If you were a courtier, one morning you knelt before the king. You received a coat of arms, a sword, a horse, a mission. You were now the king's armored knight. If you were a Templar, you took an oath, like a death pact. No possessions, no women, no love. Only God. Your sword was declared holy, and you were sent on the road to Jerusalem. Your greatest duty was to protect the Christians going to the cross. Speaking of protection, the year is 1177. You are at Montgizard. There are only 300 of you. Facing you is Saladin's army of 26,000, but you did not falter or retreat. With your strategy, you disregarded the numerical disadvantage and turned the tide of battle in your favor. You achieved a historic victory. That day, you may have achieved the greatest success in your history. Saladin and his army retreated, suffering heavy losses. But this would not be your last encounter. 10 years later, in 1187, at the Horns of Hattin, at the Battle of Hattin, you suffered the greatest defeat in your history. Most of your comrades were killed. Perhaps you were too. Your king was taken prisoner, and the wound you suffered was so great that Saladin conquered Jerusalem 3 months later. You too did not stand idly by. In 1415 in northern France, you were alongside King Henry. Yes, the king was by your side. He fought on the front lines. Perhaps his courage gave you and your friends strength. The ground was muddy, a wooded valley. The air was heavy. Some of your friends gave their lives for the king. Perhaps you were one of them. But the end was victory. The king survived, and Agincourt became one of the greatest victories in English history. King Henry and the English court knights went down in history. But your end was brought about by another Henry. This Henry was different. Henry Tudor, the year 1485. The place is bored. In fact, it was not Henry the Door who brought about your end, but the nobles you trusted. Lord Stanley and his army came to battle with you, but they did not fight against Henry. They just stood by and watched. Even King Richard III. Richard and you rode towards Henry Tudor, with the last court knights who remained by your side. Perhaps you thought you could seize one last chance to kill him and change the course of the battle. But Lord Stanley's army, which had remained motionless until then, suddenly charged towards you. Richard went down in English history as the last king to die in battle, and you were there with him. Let's return to the part where you were a Templar with the English court knights. You may have survived, but the end was not much different here either. This time, the enemy did not come from outside. King Philip IV of France, who had supported you, falsely accused you of heresy simply because he couldn't pay his debts and feared your power. In 1307, you were all arrested. In 1312, the Pope officially dissolved the order. And in 1314, your last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was burned alive in Paris. If you were a Templar, you were loyal to God, but your power became too great. If you were a courtier, you were loyal to your king, but the betrayal of those you thought were your friends outweighed that loyalty.